Thank you for joining us for Small Talks for Big Change, where we help simplify financial topics to help with your financial wellness. Thanks, everyone, for tuning into the show. My name is Michele. I'm your host of Small Talks for Big Change, and I can't believe that we are officially here. It's that time of year with the holidays approaching that may have some of us a little anxious about all the things we've got to do, who we need to shop for, and ultimately the effect that it's going to have on our wallets. Oh, and hi, I'm one of those people. It's me. I'm anxious, which is why we have Andrew Farrell here in the studio today. He is one of our favorite money guys. He's one of Patelco's community engagement specialists who does a lot of teaching with our college student populations and who's the best giver of advice, I think. Andrew, welcome back to the studio.
Thank you. Best giver of advice. I'm going to get a t-shirt that says that. I want all my friends and family to know I am the best.
You are.
Thank you.
Can you believe the year's almost over? Like, how are we doing this? We couldn't even find holiday clothes to wear for the episode.
It's crazy. I think back to like what I was doing in like February and March, and that seems like it was last week. And yet here we are. The holiday season is upon us.
Here we are. Okay, what's your favorite holiday?
Halloween. It is Halloween. I'm a Halloween guy through and through, where we're going to talk today about how some people maybe feel the pressure to spend a lot during Christmas. I tend to have that pressure more in Halloween. I really like to go all out for my costumes. I make all my costumes. I spend probably a little bit more money than I should, and also significantly more time than I should on my costumes. This year, for example, I was a giant charcuterie board.
It was amazing.
Thank you. I had, just for the listeners, I had a like foam board that I covered with wood contact paper, and then I just got a bunch of like odds and ends things like wood cubes and some burlap wired ribbon. I got some sponges. I got some floral foam. I got all kinds of stuff and just painted it and arranged it and made myself a giant charcuterie board.
But no actual cheese. There weren't actually any edible elements on the
I
thing.
didn't want to carry food around with me all night, so I just opted against that, but it was, on the agenda for a while.
I had a feeling you were going to say Halloween, but I had to still ask just to make sure. So your splurge is for a different holiday, but it all comes down to financial goals, right? We talk to people all the time about knowing what your goals are, and maybe that's where you choose to invest your money into.
It is. Yep.
So I told you I wanted to have you back in the studio so we can talk about holiday budgeting, because you're the budgeting guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I am like the world's best budgeter. I still every now and again do fall victim to spending like maybe more than I quote unquote should. But I do think that because my current budgeting mindset is about not being too hard on myself and setting goals that are actually like realistic and attainable and factoring in money for fun stuff, which I always say is one of the most important things for any budget, I am able to have a lot of success with a somewhat imperfect budget rather than like fail miserably at a super ambitious budget, which in turn allows my budget to be a lot more sustainable. And that's one of the biggest things that I try to talk about when I'm teaching budgeting skills in the classroom is that you need a budget that is going to align with you and align with your values, and not one that you dread following or that's super restricting. Otherwise, you're just kind of setting yourself up for failure. I always say there can be room for anything in a budget. There just can't be room for everything.
Ooh.
Yeah. And you and I talked about this a lot actually in our podcast last year, which was the Saver Splurger Dilemma. It's still my favorite podcast that I've ever done. So if what I'm saying is, dear listener, if what I'm saying is making your ears perk up a little bit, go check that one out. Saver Splurger Dilemma. It's a good one.
Andrew writes a lot of our financial education curriculum. I borrowed one of your budgeting decks and I used it on Friday with a group of teachers. And the other thing that you didn't mention in that whole kind of budgeting thing was your advice about being flexible with the budget. So going back and revisiting and being flexible. And we might find ourselves at this time of the year where we may have overspent, and there's even if we had planned for a holiday budgeting, we may have to kind of revise that based on where we are for the year.
Yeah.
We love your budgeting tips. I love that budgeting deck too, and sharing. All right, so what's your personal approach to the holidays and emerging debt-free? And this is one of the reasons why we really wanted to get you to talk to our listeners today.
So for me, I mean, you talked about having a holiday budget in your like year to year thing, and we can talk about that a little bit later. I personally do not budget for the holidays because my perspective here is that I'm not much of a gift giver. I'm also really not much of a gift receiver. Like my personal preference for the holiday season would just be like minimal, bare bones gifts. Just get, one or two things for the closest people in my inner circle and call it a day. For me, though, like when I'm spending for the holidays, I use my Amazon credit card throughout the year. And then whatever my points balance is at the end of the year, normally around like mid-November is when I start my Christmas shopping. That is what I use for my Christmas spending. Normally, that's enough to get the people that I want to get gifts for, whatever I want to get them. But beyond that, I kind of just cut off. That is all I do for purchases.
Yeah.
I also have a lot of people in my life, close people like my friends, my mom even, who we've had conversations where we say, look, Christmas spending stresses you out. It stresses me out. So why don't we just like not do it entirely? I have plenty of people who I love very much. We just don't get gifts for each other because mutually we just decide like, it's not worth it. There's no one forcing us to buy gifts besides, I guess, like societal expectations. And luckily, I am not someone who really cares that much about, I guess, succumbing to those things. Like I've never in my life been mad at someone for not getting me a gift. And this may sound kind of harsh, but if you're mad that I didn't get you a gift, that's your problem and not mine. Like the way,
like a you problem.
You know what I mean? The other people's opinions on my gift giving habits is none of my business. But I also know for a lot of people, they do feel that pressure to shop for everyone, friends, aunts, uncles, cousins, coworkers, you name it. And when it's being advertised to you everywhere and the whole holiday season has been taken over by this culture of gift giving, I really understand how the pressure to buy a ton of gifts can be like super pervasive and how even if we don't want to, it just kind of like forces its way in and makes us overspend, which in turn can then have us go into debt. It can have us have poor credit. It can have us neglect our savings. It can have all kinds of serious negative ramifications on our financial health and wellness. And I'm super sympathetic to that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get this straight. You're the best advice giver, just not a gift giver?
That is what the t-shirt's going to say. Good at advice, bad at gifts.
I'll just add that I'm one of those people that love to give gifts. I love it. I love shopping for people and like the excitement about giving it to them. But I hate the feeling I always overspend or used to always overspend. And that stress that lingers on January 1st when you're in debt because of it is the worst of it all.
It's the worst.
So I've planned and budgeted for what I like to do and buy the gifts, but I feel like I do live within my means, just not everybody does, and that's what we're talking about here today.
Sure.
So you're talking about communication, you're talking about boundaries. We even agreed amongst our team for our holiday party that we're not going to do the gift giving stuff. Let's just
not do
knock
it.
it
Let's
off.
just
And you
not.
know what? Everybody was all in
On
for
board.
it. I'm going to share some stats from the National Retail Federation about spend for the holidays. I thought these were really conservative and low. So they estimate that Americans spend around $875 per person on holidays, which is $42 more than the previous year that they were studied. They also estimate that $620 of that will be spent on gifts. Again, lower than I would have expected.
Still
Also
a lot of
lower
money,
than
though.
what I spent, but still a lot of money
Yeah.
nonetheless. What advice do you have to give just to maximize the season, participate in all the things without sacrificing our financial health? Because that's what it's all about at the end.
I love this question. Okay, so I'll say this. If you are a person who stresses every year about the holiday season, I want you to take a little journey with me.
You gotta strap in.
Yeah, strap in. Close your eyes. Unless you're driving, then don't do that. But if you have it available to you to close your eyes, do that. And then just imagine a world where you are enjoying all of the great things about the holiday season, the delicious food, the time with your family, the corny Christmas movies, all that good stuff. All of it without any kind of financial stress. I bet everybody out there who says they don't like Christmas will completely change their tune if that was the reality. And the thing is that world that you're envisioning can be a reality. You just may need to make some either mindset tweaks and or like budgeting tweaks. So first and foremost, I would say just try to be mindful about what your motivators are. So if you are giving gifts to your inner circle or your loved ones and you're really excited about it and you are, the gift giving is bringing you joy, kind of like you in your situation, do not let me stand in your way. By all means, go off. However, if you are finding yourself stressing, not only financially, but also because of like the time and energy and the planning of it that's required, and you're doing it solely out of obligation or because you don't want to disappoint people, or maybe you just want to be seen as somebody who like gives really cool gifts, whatever it is, if you're finding that your motivators for holiday shopping are rooted in something that's not joyful or not healthy, which is really what the holiday season should be. It should be about joy and togetherness.
Yep.
Try to think of ways to just alleviate that pressure that you're feeling. So for me, that can mean a lot of different things. It can mean cutting back on costs and going really sentimental. I'm a big proponent of like finding a nice picture of me and a friend and a loved one from like a trip we took, framing it and doing a handwritten note. It's cheap and it actually has a lot of meaning and a lot of good value to it. It can mean giving time or experiences over material things. I'm really big onto time giving. Or it can simply mean, just like I said earlier, having conversations with people who you may know are also feeling stressed about the holidays, about just not doing gifts. I've said it before, but believe it or not, you can just opt out of gift giving. I've opted out with many people in my life, and it has made the holidays immensely more enjoyable. We also do have a webinar that'll be available on our YouTube channel. If you just search Patelco on YouTube, you'll be able to see all of our old webinars. We have one coming up with the one and only incomparable Veronica Dangerfield herself about thrifty holiday gift ideas. That's going to have a lot of great tips as well. It's called Thrifty Holidays Celebrate Without Overspending. So go and check that out as well.
I love this idea about opt-out. That's exactly what we did with our team with this the gift exchange that we normally do.
Yeah.
I automatically felt so much better about it. I'm like, oh, we can go on our outing without having to go rush and buy a gift and picking the right thing. And
one less thing.
There's just so much stress off our shoulders.
Yeah.
This other concept about time giving, I think, is a big one because that's worth something, right? That's valuable.
Yeah.
And what better thing to give that's
And
free
time. Yeah.
than time, which is what it's all about, which is what you're talking about.
For me, quality time is just like the best thing that's out there. That's the kind of gift I actually do like to receive. It's also my favorite gift to give to others. And it doesn't have to be expensive. If it's within my means to get myself and a loved one like a concert ticket or a sporting event ticket, then that's great. But time giving can also be super cheap, if not completely free, and just as meaningful as either an expensive gift or like an expensive, concert ticket. Some time giving activities for me, I love to plan like potluck dinner parties with some close friends. We do a Friendsgiving every year. We have it coming up in, I believe, like a week and a half, and I'm very, very jazzed about it. I like to plan like a picnic in the park, a hike. I love like getting popcorn and mozzarella sticks from the grocery store and having like a movie night at home.
Shocker.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't even think about that. But yeah, I like a big movie night. I'm a big movie person, so getting everyone together. And that's also super, super, cheap.
Yeah.
If you look at your city's website also, you're going to find all sorts of fun free events, like free concerts in the park, free little street festivals. I do this with my mom every year. So like I mentioned before, she and I don't do gifts. But whenever I go back home to beautiful Dayton, Ohio, shout out 937, that's where she lives, just to give context. I will do some Googling before I go. I'll find whatever, local free stuff is going on in the area, and she and I will just make a day of it. And it's so much more meaningful than just like buying each other gifts that neither of us really want solely out of obligation. I promise you, taking the time and the effort to plan a day or an outing with someone that you love and then giving them your time to share like an experience together, that is going to mean so much more to that person and also to you as well, because you also get a benefit from the experience and the shared time with your loved one. It's a win-win.
Totally. And let's face it, we live in the Bay Area. If we're going to pay here to be here, there's so endless amounts of activities to do.
I say that all the time. If I'm paying to live here, I'm going to soak up the surroundings.
I also feel like the rain doesn't really start until January, so we can take advantage of some pretty nice weather in November, December here in the Bay Area too. Okay, so you've talked about mindset, and we've talked about like understanding your personal goals and your personal philosophy when it comes to the holidays and gift giving. Give us some examples of the how. So if you're me, and I'll share my situation. Like I mentioned, I budget every year. I put a dollar amount aside for gift giving, go back in the middle of the year, revisit if I'm still on track. I put my holiday funds in a separate account. I have what's called a holiday club account, and we have one here at Patelco. I know a few people who are going to be listening to this and say, oh my God, I can't believe she's talking about the holiday club account. This is the silliest thing ever. It works for me, and it works for me because it's separate. I have a payroll deduction going to it. I set an amount at the beginning of the year, and it's one of those set it and forget it things. So it works for me. There's not a whole lot of access to it because the way that it's structured is that you cannot access it throughout the year. You get those funds on November 1st. So for me, separate, out of sight, automatic, and I can set the dollar amount at the beginning of the year. If not something like a holiday club, for those that do have spending or want to budget, what are some other tips?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I understand that a lot of these tips that I've given can be applicable to like friends and, aunts, uncles, parents, but sometimes you have kids and you can't really sit your like 5-year-old kid down and say like, we're not doing gifts this year. That's not going to go over really well with a child. So sometimes you do have to unfortunately fork over some funds for Christmas. You mentioned earlier, $875 on holiday spending was the average. If you start January 1st and save $80 a month, or if you're paid every, twice a month, every 2 weeks, $40 per paycheck, that'll get you there. That'll get you at $875 for the year, and there's your Christmas shopping. But I think what you said about having it separate is the answer. I was also, dear listener, like you, if you are rolling your eyes at the holiday club, I felt the same way about it. I was like, why do I need this? I can just save the money myself and still have that Christmas fund. But having it be in like a separate account that you can't touch, that's not able to be withdrawn from, having the deposits be automatic so you do really set it and forget it. And I also think just the fact that it's called Holiday Club as well is sort of
very intentional.
Yeah, it's very intentional. It helps you avert kind of pulling from that. So Holiday Club, I have changed my tune. It is a great account we have, especially if you are somebody who is looking to be more intentional about your holiday savings throughout the year. But if you do not want to use that account specifically, I still do recommend having it be in a separate account. You don't want to have your emergency savings, your vacation savings, your Christmas savings all just be in one savings umbrella, because there's no way to really be intentional about what gardens you're like tending to. I'm a really big believer in having it be like in a separate bank account entirely. But if you want to have it just be in a separate like suffix or separate savings account, whatever you need to do to keep it separate. And for holiday spending, I would say automatic as well. Automating your savings is a great way to just kind of forget that it even is happening. Yeah. And then, like you said, November 1st rolls around and you realize, oh, shoot, I have $800 saved for Christmas. I can start my shopping now. I don't have to worry about the financial stress. So yeah, if you are somebody who is stressing financially because you do have to get gifts for whatever reason, it just requires early planning and being intentional about it. I will also say this. I have got an aunt who will buy gifts throughout the year. So like if she's shopping at a store and it's June and she sees something that she thinks someone would like, she just gets it right then. If it's on sale or whatever, goes home, puts it in a closet, and then come holiday season, she is chilling.
I wish I
could get there too.
I could barely like make sure my gas tank is filled, let alone like pre-purchase holiday gifts. All right, tell us about these gardens that we can tend to. With the Patelco membership, you can have different suffixes and use them for different things. Is there a maximum?
Not a maximum number of accounts you can have. You can have as many accounts as you want. You can even go in the app and like nickname all of them different things. Cool. So yeah, I have like one that's called Hawaii Fund. I have one that's Greece Fund because we're going there in 2026 for my 35th birthday. Woo! I've got my emergency savings. So they are all named things. I think it kind of comes back to the Holiday Club having that name. It helps you kind of deter from pulling out from it if you know right there that that's what the intention's for. So no, you can have as many savings accounts as you want. You can name them all different things, and that way you can make sure that all your savings goals are being met.
All right. Well, no excuse. Secret, separate, sacred. Veronica Dangerfield has a 5 S's secret when it comes to setting up something separate for these kind of things that we're talking about. You can set up a free savings account at Patelco Credit Union by going to patelco.org and looking under the savings account tab, I think it is. If you're curious about these YouTube webinars and podcasts that Andrew's talking about, just visit us at our YouTube channel by searching Patelco.
I just searched Patelco in the search bar.
YouTube. Yeah. And then we're going to offer something special to our listeners. If you are curious about Andrew's Halloween costume, the human charcuterie board, send us a note at webinars@patelco.org. If you want to chat, make a suggestion for a future podcast or webinar, or to get a hold of this picture of Andrew's homemade charcuterie board Halloween costume.
It's worth it, I promise.
You're going to want to see this.
It's really beautiful.
Andrew, thank you so much. It's always great chatting budgeting and all things financial advice with you. Thanks for coming back to the studio.
Thank you for having me, Michele.
If you have any questions from today's show or just want to say hi again, drop us a line at webinars@patelco.org. You can find more information about our products and services at patelco.org. That concludes today's episode of Small Talks for Big Change, where we help simplify financial topics to help with your financial wellness. Happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you next time. Patelco Credit Union is insured by NCUA.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. To subscribe, click here. To watch the next video, click here. See you next time.